Hello, everybody. This is Ron LeGrand and my friend Paul Ritter with some breaking news for you. I've asked Paul to come on here and discuss the Equifax breach and what you should be doing about it, since it literally affects half of America. I thought this information should get out to you right away so you can take action on it. Mr. Paul Ritter, how are you? Who are you? And tell them real quickly what you do.
Well, thank you, Ron, for the warm introduction. Much appreciated. What I do is we have a credit enhancement company, and we do a fair amount of volume. We're small but mighty. We have 12 employees here. So we've done quite a bit of work. I've been in this business personally since 1997, and we've fixed tens of thousands of people's credit reports.
Okay.
And my God, are we hearing a lot about this Equifax data breach?
Well, I'm sure you are. So the point is, you are a credit expert, and actually it was your idea to get this message out to our folks immediately. So what's going to happen on this conversation? You just want to tell them the ups and the downs and what to do next. Is that correct?
Well, that's where we're heading. I do want to take a little bit of time and kind of peel back the layers of the onion, because there's some things going on right now as we're recording this. Up on Capitol Hill about this Equifax data breach. This is going to be an ongoing investigation, but it is so important to understand how, more about the dark web and what people do with this information.
Okay.
It have a little bit of roots to it, other than just to throw money at it and see and make it go away, because it doesn't quite work that way.
All right. Well, go for it.
Okay, so the Equifax data breach that we're all a part of right now, and the dangers of this Equifax data breach, and the response of the protection, what I would recommend that people do going forward. I've looked at this thing backwards and forwards and I've talked to a lot of experts in the industry, and there are so many opinions out there, but the people who I really know and trust in this industry, and we'll get to that in just a minute because I'm a part of a larger grouping of credit repair companies, we all compare notes, and as we do that, they all agree that using the tools that Equifax puts forward may not be the best play for you. So just to kind of we'll give a little bit of history to our listeners today, Ron. In early March of 2017, the Department of Homeland Security sent Equifax and other companies an alert about a critical vulnerability in software that Equifax uses in its online portal for recording customer disputes. Now, what's peculiar about that statement is, here's the Homeland Security sending Equifax something saying, hey, there's a problem with your database and your security. Why didn't Equifax catch it? Why did they have to be informed by the Homeland Security? But anyhow, so Equifax, what they do is they send this guy, one guy, they send him to do some sort of scan on this attack. It was actually a piece of software called Apache Struts. And what it does is it just essentially it shows what happens whenever there's a dispute online. And that software was like open software, and as it was compromised, people could backdoor their way into the Equifax data breach, thus the breach. And that's how it all occurred. And it took them from when they were informed in March until the end of July until they detected this. And all that data leaked out. Now, when the report originally came out on September 7th, it said that there were 143 million people affected by this. The report just a couple of days ago shows 145.5 million people in the United States alone.
Which is half the country.
It's half the country.
Yeah.
It's half the country.
Yeah.
So October 2nd, just a couple of days ago, at the time of this recording, they completed a review that determined approximately another, as I just mentioned, 2.5 million. So it ends up being 145 million. And here's, there's a gentleman, the name of the gentleman who recently stepped down as the CEO of Equifax. His name was Richard Smith. He's testifying even today as we sit here and record this. He's testifying before the House Energy Committee, Commerce Committee, and he has been for the past 2 days. And some of the things that were said during this, Elizabeth Warren was grilling him about how all this came about, and the fact that Equifax is profiting from it is it's outrageous. It's totally outrageous. Matter of fact, I've got a little bit more about that right here. Senator Elizabeth, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ron.
Let me interrupt you. Let's not spend any more time figuring out who's to blame and why.
Okay.
I'd rather focus on what the downside is to us and what we're going to do about it.
Okay. Okay. There's some information about how all this happened. Like you said, but let's not go down that road.
Yeah.
More importantly,
nothing we can do about what's happened.
Right.
Okay,
Equifax. The bottom line here is Equifax actually profits from this data breach. So there's no way for us to assume that it's going to stop anytime soon. And that's what really the investigation is all about. Why they ended up profiting from their own mistakes. And there's a couple of different ways that happens. But as I mentioned before, I'm a member of a committee of credit repair companies all across the United States. And one of the gentlemen I work with is Mike Citron, and he's one of my trusted sources. He has many others who have testified before Congress about credit. And he is not a real big fan of the credit bureaus, nor am I. That's what really my life's vocation is, to make certain that they stay in check and we have checks and balances to keep them in line. So there's not just the Equifax breach, but there's also a Yahoo breach. The Yahoo breach, in that they steal not just your social security number and your identification information, but this is important, they steal our identity. The criminals, they really don't want your money, they want your identity. And so to avoid having our information put out there on the dark web, which is where they steal identities, we should, and this is one of your points we're talking to, what we should do is we should not use the same passwords over and over again. I went on yesterday to Experian.com. I have two email addresses that are my primary email addresses. One of them I put in there, and it searched everything all the way back to 2006. It found 4 breaches, and it brings up a common password that I was using during those years. It brings that up, and it had the correct number of characters. Now, it put asterisks in there to guard my identity, but it had the correct number of, which basically means that my identity as far as my email address and then the subsequent password that I was using has been breached. Now, the newer email, after 2013, it didn't seem to pick that up. So when a hacker gets my identity, that's scary. That's extremely scary, because now they can pose that they can be me, and they can set up that, oh, my son has some sort of heart condition, and they set up an account on my behalf because they basically look like me. We all know someone perhaps who had their Facebook identity stolen. They can go in and get all your friends, and they can start sending out requests. This is scary stuff. Yeah. So one of the control mechanisms to make certain that this does not become you is to not use a common password. Now, I use a software program called KeePass. KeePass, Ron, and it is free. Love that price, free. And you can systematically put into different folders, like all my internet passwords, all my email passwords, all my banking passwords, and so on and so forth. So that is, I would strongly recommend that you change all your passwords and do not use a common password, and change them over time.
Okay.
So that's one thing, and let's talk a little bit more about this dark web, as long as we're on the subject of the dark web, and how when people get into this and they steal your identity, it's not just today that they got your identity. When they got that for good, and it doesn't go away. And you may think, well, okay, they haven't done anything yet. Well, what about 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years? So you get the idea. They keep this information, and then they can sell it. And then one person sells it to another, and it ends up, I heard this morning that it was in North Korea, some of this information. Now, take that with a grain of salt. I don't know what's true and what's not, because I can't verify any of this stuff. But this is the World Wide Web, folks. This goes around the world in a heartbeat. And you could put a whole database, a major database, on a flash drive. So yeah, this is extremely important. And when they get our identity, they can do a lot of damage to us. That's about the dark web.
Well, Paul, let me ask you a question. Suppose I change all my passwords. Okay, how is that going to stop them from from stealing my identity?
What it will do is it will prevent them from a future hack into an account that, like a Facebook. Like when you log on to your Gmail account, I mean, that's a major one because your Gmail account controls so many things. I mean, I got a Google Wallet sitting off of my Gmail account. There's so many things sitting out there that all play off of the same thing. So if I change my passwords, Ron, then it stops them right there at the gate. It's kind of a gatekeeper. It stops them right there for that particular instance. So if it happens to be my Google logon, then they can't get into it anymore.
But they still have my social security number and my credit card numbers and my birth dates and my driver's license number that you got on the
Two
screen.
different things here. We're talking about dark web. They're stealing my identity.
All right.
And the Equifax breach. Now, the Equifax breach is what you're talking about. Yes, they have social security numbers and identity at that level from the Equifax breach.
Okay. So what can they do with that? What can they do with that information that would affect us greatly?
Oh my God, they can open up credit cards on your behalf.
Okay.
Yeah, let me give you, for instance, this kind of makes my skin crawl just remembering back through this, but this happened to my wife. She had her credit card information stolen, okay, on the World Wide Web. So they go in and they buy candles, $1,500 worth of candles on her account. And then they pay it off the very next month. They paid the account off. And then they got another $1,500 worth of candles. And they did this 3 times and they paid it off 3 times. And then guess what? After the third payoff, it ends up that that the cards that they were using to pay it off, those were stolen cards. So all those bounce. So now she owes $4,500. So there's clever schemes out there. So what can they do? That was not an easy thing. At the time that happened, I didn't have identity theft protection in place. It was a mess to get that off. I own a credit repair company, folks. It took us 6 months to get that off. And the core of getting it off really didn't come under the umbrella of my credit repair company. The way it actually came off is we did the credit investigation, and then we turned it over to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, who then turned it over to the OCC to have that finally taken off with the credit report.
Okay.
And that was a 6-month process. So it only happened because we knew what the heck we're doing and we went through all the logical steps.
All right.
People that don't have that understanding and idea, the OCC only handles the Office of Comptroller and Currency, and they only handle bank stuff. So if it ends up being like a tax thing that someone falsifies my tax record, we got to go somewhere else. If it's a credit card thing, we got to go somewhere else. So it's hard to unwind these things and know what party or what entity is going to be who's going to be the fixes for you. The CFPB is kind of the hub that sends these things in the right direction, but they won't even talk to us until we've done our due diligence and having it investigated at the credit bureau level. So it's a mess, Ron. It's a big mess. Yeah. So the fix here is to get protection against it.
All right, tell us how.
Essentially, it's insurance type of stuff. And what I use, and there's a lot of it out there, LifeLock, we've all heard of that. And what I use is Legal Shield Identity Shield program. It is amazing. It's so much different than what you're going to get online with the identity theft protection from LifeLock, because they'll give you up to $5 million. They will use people here in the United States to fix anything that's wrong. They will do this for my family. They will give us for the same price, for the same low price. They're going to do my family members and protect against that as well. So it's a much better tool than what you're going to get with working online with Equifax or anybody else.
Okay. Well, what about it?
You mean how much does it cost?
How much does it cost, and what would I want to know about it that we haven't discussed yet? What's the downside of it?
The downside of the Legal Shield, people say, well, gee, Paul, why would I have to pay for, I mean, I never had to pay for it before. Why would I have to pay to protect myself against something like the identity theft protection? Well, the reason why, folks, is times have changed. This is not your grandfather's credit world. This is totally different. We're in a totally different sandbox here, folks. So the downside is the amount of money that we got to pay for it. But the upside, to unwind someone's credit report and to get it back to where it was, again, I own a credit repair company. It's not easy, even with all the tools that I have. The identity theft protection monitors it so that you're alerted right away. And also, they will get you back to where you started even before the identity breach occurred.
So how do they differ from the other companies like LifeLock and so forth?
Well, LifeLock is limited in scope and what it will do and how it will work with you. They do have monitoring, but they don't have monitoring for like driver's licenses and social security cards and stealing medical information.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even do any of that stuff.
Okay.
But, so LifeLock has all those pieces in place. And again, for the family to do the entire thing for the family, Ron, I have the business plan with them. So I insured my entire business with it. And I have access to attorneys. My wife got pulled over in Virginia for going too fast, and she had access to attorneys through our Legal Shield program. So we didn't have to go down to Virginia, and because they're one of these states that you have to go and you have to appear before them. And she didn't have to do any of that stuff because we had this Legal Shield program. So
do I have to be a member of Legal Shield in order to get the credit protection service?
They have a Identity Shield program that is $9.99. Okay, so that's just the one, or you can do the step up from that, which is the $19.99, which gives you access to attorneys and so on.
Okay, all right. All right, and the screen says, do not enroll with their free offer. Why?
This is the screen here we're talking about is Equifax has this thing where they will allow you to go and see whether or not you have been compromised. And every single person I have talked to has been compromised on the Equifax site. So this is showing you where to go. I would recommend to do it. Go ahead and see whether or not you've been compromised, but don't use their program. The reason why is because what they do is they're going to give you free for 90 days. They're monitoring, and then after that, but you're going to have to give them your credit card number up front. So after that, they're going to charge you $19.95, might even be $29.95 per month. And the idea here is that so many people are going to stick with the program just because it's easier to stay with it than cancel it. And why should they profit from their breach? And then secondly, the company that they're using to do this, although it's an independent third-party company, they pay money back to Equifax to provide the service.
So you're saying the website that you've got in front of us is for Equifax to check to see if we've been breached, but they won't let us check unless we sign up for their service?
The site to go to for Equifax is right there. No, you can check in whether or not you've been breached. And once you do, it's going to automatically send you to something like this. The next screen here, it says, thank you, you've been breached, enroll. You click on this button, and what I'm saying is don't enroll.
Okay, got you.
And here's the reasons down here as to why you shouldn't enroll in that.
All right.
They attempted. Okay,
right.
Go ahead, Ron.
Well, I was going to say, okay, so I got the reasons here, which are too numerous to sit here and read. The point is, we don't want to use their system to fix their problem. Okay, well, then what do we do?
So what you do is you're going to go to mycreditteam.com and click on latest news. And I have an article up there about the Equifax breach. And then down below, you'll see a hyperlink that says click here. And once you click there, it'll walk you through what you need to do and give you all your options to signing up for just Identity Shield, Identity Theft Protection, Business Plan, or whatever you want to sign up for.
Okay, how do you spell team, Paul?
Okay, so don't go to mycredittem.com. Go to team. Thank you, Ron.
Yeah. All right. So when I go to mycreditteam.com, what am I going to find there, and what am I doing?
All this menu bar, it says home, latest news, frequently asked questions, so on. Click on the latest news of the bar.
Yeah, I got it. Okay. And then what?
There'll be a link down below.
Uh-huh.
It says arm yourself and your family, and it says click here, and it gives you all the options and walks you through it.
Got it. Okay, so that's going to give me a lot better protection than using the Equifax thing or the other programs. I got it. Okay.
Absolutely.
So what if I find out I have been breached? What do we do?
Well, I would change all my passwords. I would put a freeze on my account. Putting a freeze on your account with Equifax is rather simple. You're just going to go up there and ask them to put a freeze on the account.
Well, what is the freeze for exactly?
The freeze.
What does it stop?
The freeze stops anyone from applying for within the next 90 days using your credit to apply.
Got it.
And then there's a thing they call it's a PIN number. Think of it as your unfreeze. So if you want to go apply for a card while you're still under freeze, you'll have to have your PIN number and apply and give it to whomever you're applying with, because when they run that credit, they won't be able to do it without the PIN number.
Got it. All right. Okay.
So it's a temporary way to control hackers to getting into your account. The longer term solution is to enroll with the Legal Shield plan, and it's a much more solid solution. Okay.
All right. Is that it?
That's the 30,000 foot overview.
Okay.
Other than that, we could go on and talk about Target's breach, and there's so many other breaches sitting out there. I would stay on top of what's going on in the legal news.
All right. Well, for the sake of this broadcast, we've accomplished what we need to accomplish. What's going to happen if you don't take action? How to check it and how to fix it the best you can. So that's good. We got that message out there. So you guys listening, I hope you're going to take action on this before. Look, Paul will be the first to tell you, if you don't do anything and they hit you, it is going to affect your life for a long time in the future. You saw me taking notes. I'm going to do exactly what he just told me to do as soon as we get through with this broadcast. So suggest you do the same. All right. Anything else you want to add, Paul?
Ron, there's some people that their credit is worth stealing, and there's some people the credit's not worth stealing. And don't think just because your credit is a little banged up that it's not worth stealing, because it may not be that way today, but it might be in a year from now that you reverse it.
Maybe they don't want your credit. Maybe they want to use your personal information for other stuff.
That's right. That's right. They can use it on the dark web, and they can hack that way. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, sir. Any other words of wisdom?
No, Ron, again, I want to thank you for spending time with me today, and I look forward to doing other things with you.
All right. Thank you, and thank everybody for tuning in. Hope you take action on this. See you later.
Thank you, Ron.